This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Joining us today is Tim Blake, who has been appointed as CEO of Hydrogen Future Industries. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Tim, how are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Well, I know we've spoken before quite a bit. You've been CEO of the subsidiaries, but now you are officially CEO of HFI. So just tell us a little bit about what this means perhaps for the company, how it might change your role in leading HFI.
Well, it's something that we'd planned pretty much from the outset.
Okay.
We never sort of really had the time to get round to it. There's so much going on in the development side. Now we're sort of at this point where we've just finished the last round of fundraising. So there's a bit of, not so much downtime, but a bit of time to actually action some of these things at the end of the year. So that's really what's brought it together. Okay,
good. So, I mean, and also a part of that news, you've announced that Tim Scott is joining the board as an advisor. So I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about Tom and what he's going to do.
Yeah, so Tom is sort of head of nuclear side for probably the main advisor to the UK government. So he's head of nuclear and physics at Bristol University.
Okay.
He's an exceptionally renowned figure within that world. We've been working with, I've known Tom for quite some time, but we've been working with him for a couple of years on green hydrogen and also hydrogen storage.
Okay.
And also pink hydrogen. So pink hydrogen is the development of hydrogen from nuclear power. We've brought him in really to take over my role on the sort of independent review board for technical matters. What Tom brings is a great deal of technical expertise, obviously, but specifically in the fields that we're dealing with. We have a collaboration agreement with Bristol University, and we work with them on a project together with EDF, Urenco, who produce enriched uranium, for the production of hydrogen from nuclear power. And that's really done sort of when there's low demand with nuclear at night. You can't just turn nuclear down. You can't switch it off. You can't do so. It's creating it. So we've been working on a sort of live demonstrator which will convert the electrical power through our electrolyzer into hydrogen. That's then stored in what we call a hydride, and the technology there is through Tom. And actually the demonstrator we're using uses depleted uranium. So we're utilizing waste product. We store the hydrogen as a hydride. So it's a metal powder in all intents and purposes, with the depleted uranium. And then when you want to release that energy, whether that be as electricity, turn hydrogen back into electricity through a fuel cell, or as gas into the national natural gas grid. So we can do either with it. So we're doing this demonstrator on that, and then also to plug wind into the side of it.
I mean, that's something we haven't explored before. You call it pink hydrogen.
Yeah, so hydrogen produced from nuclear power is called pink hydrogen. I mean, there's so many other colours coming out nowadays. So it's not quite green, though it's from a renewable source, which is nuclear.
Okay.
So in this case, there's no carbon.
Right.
So it's cleaner than blue.
Okay.
Not as green as green. So the green comes from renewable energy.
I see.
Blue is from carbon captured, usually petroleum or gas or whatever.
Okay. So this is trialing using uranium nuclear power that is not in demand at night, which would, I guess, ordinarily just supposed to be wasted potentially, to turn it into hydrogen using the electrolyzer and then storing that. And you say it can be turned either back into electricity or into gas to feed the natural gas grid.
Yeah. So the advantages of the system, we work very closely with Tom and Bristol on this. Our electrolyzer is particularly efficient. As I say, we're up to 97% efficiency. The conversion then into hydrogen, obviously the more efficient you are, the cheaper effectively it is. Storing it as a hydride has numerous benefits. One is there's no real use for depleted uranium, and the UK has a lot of it. As does America, the France, various sort of nuclear states. And it's very good at storing hydrogen. So to give you a sort of idea, per volume, so same size canister, you'll get approximately 5 times the amount of hydrogen stored than you would as a compressed gas, depending on the pressure, but 2.5 times the amount of hydrogen than you do as a liquid, hydrogen, without all the issues associated with trying to store liquid hydrogen cryogenically. But it means also it's stored, it's effectively inert, so it's not explosive, it can't leak. All the issues with the gas or the liquid are sort of out the window in that respect. So you can store very large quantities of it safely. So when it comes to, say, a nuclear power station or any power station, or storing in a port, we can store huge amounts of hydrogen and we safely release it and restore it through heat.
And it's stored with depleted uranium? So the depleted uranium actually becomes a storage media. So it's stored, the reason, because it sounds a bit sort of out there, you're saying you're storing more hydrogen per volume than you are as a liquid hydrogen, because you're imagine that's as dense as you're going to get. But you're storing it at a molecular level. So the hydrogen bonds to the uranium. Hydride. And there's other metals you can use. We've used magnesium, there's lanthanum, nickel, there's a few different alternatives. But by attaching it in this way, you actually get a lot more hydrogen for your buck, really. So it sits there safely and sit there as long as you want it to. So it bonds to the depleted uranium and forms a hydride, and that's a powder that would look like.
Basically, just a metal powder, yeah. So as that goes in, you introduce some heat. So then the hydrogen bonds to uranium as you pump it in, and then to release it, you introduce more heat. So sort of 150 to put it in, 250 degrees to release it. Then that comes out in large quantity. So on nuclear sites, we can use the depleted uranium because it's licensed for it. Though actually, it's particularly clean. It's not it's not radioactive in the sense of think of. So
this sounds really cool. I mean, thinking of storing energy, you think batteries, really. Obviously, hydrogen, there are different ways to do that as liquid or compressed gas in big cylinders. But I mean, early stages on this. Obviously, this is being researched and trialed. Do you get a feeling this could almost transform energy storage and be a normal part of the grid in the future?
We know it works because the units have been built and running. So we're sort of doing other sides, and hydrides have been used actually within the nuclear industry since they started nuclear. So it's been going on, but just not to the sophistication of this. With us, it's particularly key because as I say, we don't have to use depleted uranium. We can do on the sites we're looking for, but we do have other options, other metals. So with lanthanum nickel, for instance, we've got twice the energy density than you do with lithium ion. So when you compare it to a battery, which is in reality what it is, it's the way of storing it. It's just you have other options that you wouldn't with a battery as we know it. So we can release it as a gas into the pipeline, or we can release it as a gas through a fuel cell and turn it back into electricity and water. So with the mining industry in particular, this is key for us because on the mines, you can't legitimately store thousands and thousands of litres of compressed gas because it's obviously a huge hazard. And we were looking at ways around this to really sort of complete the system. And that's
And that could be it. Okay, well, you mentioned the mining industry there, of course. There's an ongoing feasibility study, isn't there, for your technology? So how are things looking on this front with the going on of that feasibility study?
Yeah, no, it's going perfectly. We've the turbines, we left the turbine running out in Montana through the winter, which was particularly harsh. It did drop below -50, but we were getting gusts beyond 70 miles an hour, which we didn't really plan to leave it out for all that time because it's, you know, there's just components on this particular unit you wouldn't really use in that, but it ran fine. We've now taken that down. It's been basically stripped and refitted, ready for final independent testing. So that all links in with the mining side, and then coupled in with the electrolysis side and the storage. So this feasibility study is nearly complete, and then the ultimate part thereafter is to put this as a system into the mine, so we can see it operating all the way through. That's the storage, the generation, and whatever.
And you're hoping to complete this feasibility study by?
I would think. I mean, the actual study itself will probably be completed within 3 months, 4 months, I would say, unless there's something comes up that we're not wanted or additional information is required. But right now, it's we can see it's working, so it's really sort of just finishing off the program.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. It sounds like there's an awful lot of scope or things to look forward to at HFI. But I want to just sort of bring it back to the investment side of it. What's your market cap? 1.6 at the minute. So, that's low on a market there. So how do you, as well as obviously developing these technologies, which of course could lead to lots of interest coming in to the company, how do you plan to sort of build that shareholder value? Is it really about getting this feasibility study done and hitting the phones and making sales, or what's the kind of corporate strategy?
Yeah, I suppose that's not a million miles from the truth. So yeah, first thing is getting the feasibility study out of the way. Thereafter, we've really got to take the turbine and the electrolyzers up to a commercial kind of size, not fully commercial, so a size that we can utilize, and we have markets on a smaller scale for that. I do think once the feasibility study's through and we can announce some of these results, that will help us significantly with moving forward, because people will be able to see what it really is and why it's good. But yeah, other than that, you are pretty much on the phone. We do have interest with people wanting licenses and different things, but really it's just a case of trying to get these immediate targets done and out of the way, and that's pretty much my focus going forward.
Okay, good. Okay, good stuff. Well, thank you so much for giving us an update today, Tim Blake, the CEO of Hydrogen Future Industries, and we're following the story quite closely.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.